Hey guys, this is Seth Mearsman with Autoblog.
Hey, I'm Greg Migliori.
We're here in our 2015 Volkswagen GTI long-term car that you've probably seen and read a little bit about, and we are driving in a wild, exciting, and undisclosed location in northern Oakland County. So this is the 6th generation GTI, if I'm not very much mistaken, right, Greg?
Yeah, it might even be the 7th generation, actually.
Let's start that again. So this is the 7th generation GTI, if I'm not very much mistaken. Is that right?
Dead on. That is, you are so right.
Not the 6 at all. I've been going back since we talked about doing this video, and I've been thinking about the GTI's generations past that I've been in,
Yeah.
and I think that I've got 4 for sure, and maybe 5.
Okay. Well, you're beating me. I've been in at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
And they're great cars. They're fun cars. It's amazing how consistent they are throughout the generations. You know, of getting that same sort of, the mission of the car remains the same, you know? You get in it and just, it's a driver's car. It's an enthusiast car.
I agree. I think that the mission has stayed exactly the same, but what's different is the environment that you launch in. I think these days, when you've got a hatchback, I mean, you look at things like the Mazda Speed 3 and the Ford Focus ST and cars like that. Those are really serious performance cars.
Right.
So I think, to me at least, this GTI kind of bridges the gap between a fun to drive, but sort of low powered hatchback, and those like pretty serious front wheel drive performance cars.
This is the sweet spot. It gets up to 34 miles per gallon. This one does, and it's 210 horsepower, 3,000 pounds. So when you actually look at those raw numbers, to the non-informed observer, you might be like, is that really a performance car?
Right.
210 horsepower, weighs 3,000 pounds, but it's right in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, you and I, although we're both obviously quite young and spry and handsome, can remember the days when 200 horsepower was a pretty high performance V6.
Sure. Yeah.
20 years ago, 15 years ago. So 210 horsepower, again, like in a hatchback, these days, because the horsepower wars have ramped everything up, doesn't seem like a whole lot. But when you come back to the idea that the speed limits haven't really changed that much, you can use it on a day-to-day basis and really enjoy it. So guys, we're gonna swap sides over here real quick, and I'm gonna
drive this.
Let Greg take over, and we'll just continue rapping. So there are obviously a lot of things that we really like about the car. I've got to say that amongst my nitpicks, the strongest one by far has been driving this car in the wintertime with the automatic park sensors. They're not great for snowy environments.
Right.
When those sensors get covered with snow, they won't work particularly well, and it wants to trigger basically a really loud, obnoxious beeping noise.
That's frustrating. And frankly, it's a little unnerving.
Yeah,
you're like, what's going on here, you know? So, yeah, I agree with you. It's not to rag on this car, because it's not a problem that's unique to the GTI. I drove a Buick Encore last night, and it was going off all the time, too. I don't know, as far as, I guess I haven't lived with this car long enough to really find things I truly, dislike. Mm-hmm. It's still sort of in the, out-of-the-box feel for me. Yep. I mean, I love hot hatches. This one looks pretty good. Not all of them do.
It's distinct from the regular Golf, but it's not. If you're into a car that makes a really big statement about you visually, this is not the car that you're going to be looking for. I think your GTI is pretty much supposed to be white with a couple of red accents everywhere and a stained interior other than the plaid seats. And so, obviously whoever ordered this car ordered it in the wrong color, but beyond that, they did a pretty good job.
The steering wheel is one of my favorites. I love the shape, the feel, the red stitching, the semi-flat bottom. Manual's great. I love the way the gear shift feels. All the inputs that connect the machinery to you feel good. On a basic level, the car feels connected to you. Clutch is easy to use. I'm wearing shoes that have this much tread on them. Yeah. I can still shift this car.
Yeah, it's really light. The catch point is easy to find.
Right.
I've haven't ever stalled this car. Haven't really missed a shift that I can recall. So the gate's pretty tight, but it's not overly notchy. So I think that's a huge plus. And I like the directness of the steering. I think that it's short wheelbase. I think it's really easy to change direction. I do feel like we're getting less and less road feel with every generation of GTI. But again, it's about compromise, and I also think that this steering is a lot less stressful than a more talkative rack on something like we were mentioning, the WRX.
Yeah.
So you're really getting more of a balanced total package instead of one that's completely optimized for driving through a corner at 9/10.
That's a Volkswagen GTI. I think we're pretty psyched to have it in our long-term fleet for a year. For Autoblog, I'm Greg Migliori.
I'm Seth Mearsma. Thanks for watching, guys.